Hello, I am Madam Gracious Kanzeni from Educare, Tanzania. Warmly welcome in our media Educare TZ, says we can proceed with our A-level tutorials. And here, my student team, we have our chemistry subject and our class level is Form 5. So we are proceeding with the general chemistry in our second topic, which is the chemical bonding. So my student, today we're going to discuss another concept which is all about the strength and length of ionic and covalent bond. Tulipokuwa tunaona introduction ya chemical bonding, obvious tuliona kwamba we are going to learn about the types of chemical bond, ambapo tuna covalent or ionic, tuna covalent, tuna ionic or electrovalent, na tuna metallic bond. So now it's time to look on the issue of those strengths and the length of these these types of chemical bond. Particularly, we're going to start with the issue of the ionic and the covalent bond. Kwamba lazima tuone kuhusiana na the issue of the strength and length of this bond, kwa sababu zitakuwa zinatofautiana. Tunapokuja kwenye covalent, the issue of the length and the strength ni different. The same apply to the ionic or electrovalent. So my student, let us start with the ionic bond strength. The ionic bond strength. Remember, tunapozungumzia ionic tunaongelea kuhusiana na nani? Electrovalent bond. So now how about this? If you can remember, the ionic tulisema kwamba this is types of bond which is formed by the transferring of electron between the positive and the negative charged particle. For instance, we have the cation and the anion. I hope that is clear for you. So here you can see that an ionic compound is stable because of the electrostatic attraction between its positive and negative ion. Sasa hii ionic ni stable. Kumbuka hizi transferring of electron, sharing of electron of this bond atoms zinatokea ili kuhakikisha kwamba ile stability inafikiwa. Sasa utaona kwamba this ionic compound, maana kwamba when we talk about ionic compound, we are talking about the cation and the anion. So always the ionic compound are stable or is stable. Kwa nini ni stable? The simple reason is because of what? Electrostatic force of attraction between its positive and the negative ions. Kwamba zile negative na positive, the way zinavyo bond together is where zina maintain hii stability of the ionic compound. That's why tunasema kwamba stable or is stable. Reasoning ndio hiyo hapa. So now we can see that the lattice energy of a compound is a measure of the strength of this attraction. So when we start to look at the strength of the ionic compound, we consider the lattice energy. Kwamba lattice energy is a measure for this strength of the attraction or for this ionic compound or ionic bond. Maana kwamba ionic strength we consider it au tuna measure consider the what? Lattice energy. So now the lattice energy of an ionic compound is defined as the energy required to separate 1 mole of the solid into the components gaseous ion. Sasa kama tunaweza kufanya determination ya strength of ionic compound kwa kumeasure the lattice energy. Now we have to remind ourselves what is lattice energy. So lattice energy simply tunaambiwa inakuwa defined as the energy required. Kwamba ni energy ambayo inakuwa required ili kuweza kufanya kuseparate the 1 mole of the solid into its component of the gaseous atom. Na hii gaseous atom inakuwa kwenye nini? Ions. Maana kwamba we convert the solid atom to gaseous ion. So this is all about what? The lattice energy. Make sure una remember his concept, kwa sababu ukiangalia kuhusiana na issue lattice energy tumeizungumzia kama mara 3 hivi sehemu tofauti tofauti. Tulipokuwa tunasoma physical chemistry, umeona lattice energy tumeizungumzia sana. Tumeizungumzia sana. The same apply in the general chemistry. Hizi terminology bado zinahusika because we are talking about the reactions. Kuna hizi energy ambazo zinakuwa involved. So we see here. Kwa hiyo we can see that lattice energy of a compound is a measure of a strength of this attraction. Kwamba ili tuweze kumeasure the ionic compound or the strength of the ionic compound or electrovalent bond, therefore we have to consider the issue of lattice energy. Therefore now lattice energy simply ni energy ambayo inakuwa required to make the conversion of the solid metal to the gaseous ions. Sasa ile energy ambayo inakuwa required kufanya hii conversion ya this solid atoms inakuwa separated kutoka pale inaenda inatengeneza ions. Therefore that is what we call what? Lattice energy. So I hope that is clear for you. So now you can see you have to note this. Note that the conversion is used where the ionic solid is separate in ions. So the lattice energy will be endothermic. And the endothermic maana kwamba we are talking about the positive value. If you remember about the issue of endothermic and ectothermic reaction, endothermic energy and the ectothermic energy. So endothermic always the value is positive. Therefore ndo anasema kwamba hii conversion kwamba tunavyo separate hiyo solid atom to gaseous ion ambapo tunairefer kama ni lattice energy. Anasema kwamba you have to note this kwamba this separation so the lattice ambayo ina involve lattice energy, this will be endothermic. Kwa hiyo unajua kwamba the value of the lattice energy you are going to get during this process, therefore itakuwa ni positive value. The value will be positive ambayo umeambiwa will be endothermic. So endothermic maana kwamba we are talking about the positive absorption of the what? Of the energy to the system or to the surrounding whatever. Okay, now you can see a large magnitude for lattice energy indicates a more stable ionic compound. My student, you have to know this. Maswali yanaweza kaja kwa namna tofauti sana. Anaweza kukuuliza tu hichi concept. Asa kama hauna hii more information, actually inakuwa ni difficult. So you have to develop yourself through this knowledge. Anasema kwamba large magnitude for lattice energy indicate a more stable ionic compound. Kwamba kumbe tunapoongelea kuhusiana na the issue of more stability of those ionic compound, hatuangalii tu au hatutumii tu measuring of the lattice energy, but also we have to consider the magnitude of the what? Lattice energy. Therefore the large magnitude of the lattice energy, it ensures the more stability of the ionic compound. Kwa hiyo kama utakuwa na value kubwa ya lattice energy, therefore that compound will be also what? More stable ukicompare na zile ambazo zina lower magnitude of the what? Of the lattice energy. So the lattice energy for the sodium chloride is what? 786 kilojoule. Thus it require 786 kilojoule to separate 1 mole of solid sodium chloride to gaseous sodium ion and chlorine ions. Kama tulivyosema kule kwamba ni energy required to separate the solid ions into its component of gaseous ions. Kwamba inakuwa ni solid compound, then inakuwa converted to its component of what? Gaseous ions. Maana kwamba a sodium chloride, it is solid compound, therefore inakuwa converted or inakuwa separated into the what? Gaseous ions, ambapo tunaenda kuwa na sodium ion and what? And chlorine ion. And therefore this is what we call the lattice energy. The lattice energy. So now my students, you can see that when 1 mole of each of the gaseous sodium ion and chlorine ion forms solid sodium chloride, 786 kilojoule of heat is released. So this will be vice versa. Simply, when we talk about lattice energy and we are talking about the endothermic reaction, mean that the heat must be absorbed. Therefore, the separation of sodium chloride to its component of gaseous ion, ambapo sodium chloride tunaenda kupata sodium ion na chlorine ion. Utaona kwamba energy is positive. The lattice energy will be positive. Lakini sasa hiyo energy at the same time kwamba yule sodium ion na chlorine ion zina combine together kwenda kutengeneza ile sodium compound ambayo ni sodium chloride, you will see that the energy will be released instead of absorbed. Kwa hiyo kama energy itakuwa released, therefore that will be exothermic, maana kwamba the value will be positive, ina maana ni inverse of the endothermic. So that is all about. So my student, this is the first session. Thank you so much. Let us proceed to the second session.